So, on the big video with me and Joey, a lot of people mentioned that they really would like to see those budget decks actually built out. So, what did I do? I do what I do best. I went through and I made a bunch of budget deck lists. So this one I'm going to do one per video, so people can kind of focus and learn on each of these, kind of what the decks are, what they should be doing, and how to go from here. But my goal was to keep all these under 50 US dollars using TCG player prices. A lot of these cards are kind of bulk. You may have them already if you buy like an anniversary kit or a starter deck, but in general, about 40 bucks was my target. And I'm not gonna lie, these came out really good. So the first one that I did was Mono Water. So Mono Water in particular has a lot of very cheap cards. In particular, your backup engines cost. This backup engine is entirely bulk. This is 15 very good backups, none of which are costing me like, this is maybe $2 in cards at the end of the day. And that's good because it frees up a lot of room for kind of more expensive staples. If you bought the anniversary kit, you're going to have 2 Lenas and 2 Leviathans already. I went ahead and bumped to the 3rd Lena. We don't have a lot of recursion in the list. And she is a hit for Warrior of Light, so I figured it was just kind of worth it to increase that count by a little bit. But, I mean, looking at the rest of this is... I managed to make room for a GigaWoL variant. I ran 2 copies of 7-drop Warrior of Light in this deck as a way of kind of ramping. Mono Water really wants to get its backups down very quickly, and you can go Larsa, Warrior of Light, hit 2 backups, draw 2 cards, which is kind of like the most efficient thing you can do. You could consider putting Warrior of Light at 1 if you really wanted it to be budget, but I do really like having the option of the second one once the first one gets answered. And we have a suite of some really sick 3-cost cards. So obviously we have our 9 3-cost backups. Those are the ideal hits. But we also have some kind of fun ones. Layla does not specify that she gets forward, so she can actually search the Ferris backup from this set. So you can go Warrior of Light, hit a backup, and Layla, establish 2 forward, search a Ferris, and then now you have another backup if you wanted to. We do have the ability to really ramp for the Lena Leviathan play. We have Lightning as a bit of spot removal. And the deck has a pretty simple goal here, honestly. You want to stick the 4 characters and go into Tidus. And to that measure, we actually are running 2 copies of the new Yuna. She's both very cheap and very, very good. We have the backups. We have the ability to go Ash. We have 2 copies of Realm, who is not only a hit for Warrior of Light, she's also gives you the ability to go for the Ash Realm Ash line. We're not on any monsters, which just most of them don't cost 3, which is a little annoying for the deck. You have to kind of go out of your way. You could easily throw in like 3 copies of Blue Worm. There's no Tros in here. Tros ends up being a little bit expensive. You probably could make room for him now, but again, I wanted to kind of focus on 3 costs. As far as like big improvements or things that you could do to make this better as you get more money and want to invest in the deck, especially next set or next month once the reprint comes out. But 3 copies of Cullen would be really, really strong here. Would both up the EX burst count and give you more interaction for your opponent's turn. This deck is unfortunately very main phase heavy. Really just having the Leviathans as ways to interact. As far as limit breaks, we did find room for both limit break Tiduses. This is a pretty big chunk of the budget. You really only need one of these. You could just slap any other LB in over the second one. Similarly, the 3 Leelas could be anything. These are about $1 to $2 a pop, but I had enough room in the budget to technically have the optimal limit break deck, but that's not necessary at all. You could easily get by with like 1 Leela, 1 Tidus, and then 3 blank cards. Just get 3 copies of Zac or heck, Yuri is my go-to for cards that just aren't worth the cardboard they're printed on. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a relatively basic list, but it does help kind of if you're new to the game, you don't want to spend a ton of money. This deck is very, very upgradable. A lot of these cards, if you do like the idea of playing water or mono water, are cards you're going to want anyway. Every single one of these backups will go in future decks if you're playing Mono Water. These Leviathans are, if you had the Anniversary box, this deck is really easy to build, but these are cards that just don't leave. As far as like further upgrades go, again, I would bump to like the third Warrior of Light, maybe going down on this. I'd add the Sarah FFL over the Larsa, although Larsa is really good in this deck, to be quite honest. Different builds I have had like a copy of the Fiend. Unsearchable with Larsa, really good against like Chaos Arc. Probably the first forward I would cut is like the Fermelda. Like she's like fine, she's an EX burst, but she doesn't have any text until damage 3, which makes her like a not great hit for a Warrior of Light early on. She's just very, very cheap, and she's fine. Like she's not incredible. You could definitely slim the Viking package down a little bit, go down to like 2 copies of this Viking as well, to get like 2 copies of the Fiend in, get her 3 Kikullens in, go to 2 Lena, maybe slide out the Lightnings or go down to 1 Lightning, for instance. Yeah, there's a lot of different directions you could take this. You could swap the Eunice for like other things. Again, I just know that like when you're playing budget, one of your goals should be, what's the most unfair thing I can do? And in this situation, we're trying to do the unfair thing of going Larsa into Warrior of Light, getting 2 backups with 4 cards in hand, getting to 5 backups very quickly, and then going like Ashe, Yuna, Tidus, and win the game on the spot, right? So, we're on 6 minutes. What are some other like little changes you could consider for this? You could definitely go for, like I said, you can go 1 Warrior of Light. You can go for a bit more of a summon heavy package. If you go to 1 Warrior of Light, you probably want to bump like a little bit on the backups. Another like backup option, stuff like Awaka, could be really solid here, just as like a means to add more backups. Queen Brawny can search your Lenas, which is nice. There's not a ton of other princesses in the list, so I don't know if I'd want to run that. But that's another option, like GigaWoL can hit. The third Leviathan wouldn't be like terrible if you wanted to. It's just a little bit of money, and I think 2 is more than fine. Like honestly, this deck could very easily win a store championship, as is with no changes. Like I said, the only real thing is like the 3 Kikullens would be really, really choice for sure. Probably would swap out the Tidus here as well, given it's going to conflict with this, but it is a relatively cheap 3-drop. Let me see if there's like any other like water 3s that I would want to play in that slot. We have too many forwards for Siren. You could run a Hippocampus. Like Alfina would be another like decent budget alternative. I've got friends that swear by Spectral Keeper, but I'm not really a fan. I do like Rydia as with the way to fill the break zone and get a summon. Obviously, Glacial is out of our budget, or we would consider her. But we're getting kind of back into the older sets, yeah, where there's just not all that many other cards we'd really be looking for. But no, like I said, this deck is very good. Materia Hunter has it priced at $42 on TCG Player. A lot of that, like I said, value is going to be 2 Warriors of Light, the Leviathans, the Lenas, the 1 Tidus, and the Limit Break deck. And I think almost the rest of this, maybe the Octomimic's like $1, but everything else in this should be under $1 per card. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody.